JJ, welcome back to Breakdown. October 17th, football season is in full steam. Week 7 is behind us. We're going into week 8. SEC versus Big Ten. Let's talk about week 7. You ready to do it?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
All right.
Week 7, I'm going to go back and recap a couple of games. I'll start first with the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin was at Illinois.
Or Wisconsin was at Michigan State.
Okay. Well said. Wisconsin was at Michigan State. Wisconsin was a 7.5 point favorite going into Michigan State. Gosh, right. Michigan State pulled out a victory after losing 4 in a row.
They did.
So have they reestablished themselves? They about ready to turn it around?
I think it was just two bad teams. Wisconsin probably shouldn't have been favored as high as they were, but they had a proven defense, so we thought. But Michigan State really took the right time to be more dynamic on offense.
They were.
Yeah, Jaden Reed threw a touchdown, and he caught the game-winning touchdown in double overtime, and it was a pendulum swing back and forth, but Michigan State prevailed. And that was just one of many games I got wrong from week 7, but we can discuss the others.
Okay. Michigan State, how would you rate their defense in last week's game?
I mean, their passing defense was better,
Okay.
but Wisconsin's passing offense is Wisconsin. It's hard to judge when you have a really bad offense playing a really bad defense. I don't know.
Okay.
What did you think?
Michigan State improved. I thought they improved a lot. Even though Wisconsin, a bad offensive team, they were still favored, 7.5 points.
Yeah, they were favored on the road by quite a bit.
Exactly. And Michigan State covered God. It was like a do or die game for Michigan State. If they lost that game, they could have kissed their season goodbye. They still got potential possibilities.
Yeah, they can still make a bowl. Okay.
Okay. Well, let's talk about another Big Ten game.
Yes.
Minnesota, the once hot and mighty Minnesota Gophers were visiting Brent Bielema and the Fighting Alumni in Champaign, Illinois. Minnesota was a 6.5 point favorite. Illinois won handily. Your take on that game?
Brett Bielema is a better coach than I give him credit for. As an Arkansas fan, I have a little bit of hurt feelings about some of the way things went in Arkansas, but I have to give him his flowers. He's a good coach. His players seem to really like playing for him. I did not think Tommy DeVito was going to play. Tommy DeVito did play. He threw for 250 some yards. Their backup quarterback is really bad. I think he's a transfer from Rutgers. I can't remember his name. But I just expected him to play. That was one of the reasons I was so gung-ho on taking Minnesota. I thought also Minnesota might bounce back from a very underwhelming performance the week before. But PJ Fleck is what he is. He can get you to a certain place, but he might not be able to get you to the next step.
Two things. I want to ask you. You just said you thought Brent Bielema was a better coach than you thought. The other thing I want to ask you is. Who is Minnesota? I mean, they looked awesome earlier their first 4 games. They've lost their last 2, which is more reflective of the real Minnesota, the last 2 or the first 4.
I think it just depends, on the quarterback play. Tanner Morgan was in and out of the game. His health issues are gonna bear themselves in when we talk about week 8. But I think part of it is their best players. Mohamed Ibrahim didn't play the week before, and he played really well this week against Illinois. But I think part of it's the players, but I think PJ Fleck is really good at beating down teams that he can't compete with, and or that can't compete with him.
Okay.
And then teams are on a similar playing field,
Okay. So year to date, just Minnesota. What letter grade would you give them?
C-.
Whoa. Okay.
I mean, what would you give them?
I'd probably give him a C.
Okay.
At a while, I had him a B+.
Yeah.
But I give him a C right now. Losing to Illinois, I think Illinois is a better team than most people people give them credit for. And I'm going to talk
They're
about
bowl eligible already.
I'm going to talk about Bielema real quick. Bielema is a good coach unless his ego gets in his way. If he start getting egotistical and like he did when he was at Arkansas, he can lose it. But that's just my own personal opinion. Let's talk about the really big game last week in the Big Ten.
Okay.
In the big house. The big game in the big house. Penn State walked in to Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
Penn State was a 7-point dog. Penn State forgot to get off the bus. What happened?
I mean, they were looking pretty good
They were looking pretty good.
in the first half.
Penn State?
Okay, not when you go to the statistical matchup. When you just look at the score in the first half,
Okay,
at the
okay,
score,
okay.
they were doing pretty well.
But JJ, midway through the second quarter, it was like, and I'm just paraphrasing, I'm just guessing, it was like 25 offensive plays to 9 offensive plays.
Yeah, I think Penn State had like 17 yards passing at that point.
Okay.
Outside of that long run from Sean Clifford, they really didn't do anything on the ground.
True,
either,
very
so.
true.
Yeah, I just think
So you said statistically they looked pretty good the first half.
no, I said on the scoreboard.
On the scoreboard, I'm sorry.
It was close in the first half.
That's true. Michigan was selling for field goals early in the game.
They were. And that was just a product of JJ McCarthy. He's got a lot of growing up to do. He does obviously raise Michigan's ceiling, but he might, he looks shaky every now and then.
My $1 million question to you. Is Michigan really, really good and Penn State, or is Penn State really, really bad? And don't say yes.
I think Penn State is really good on defense. I think they have a great secondary. I think offensively they lost Jahan Dotson. Sean Clifford's a 6-year senior, but he's kind of plateaued in his sophomore year. He hasn't really gotten better. I think they're a decent team. I think they're a top 15 team in the country. I think that just is more of indicative of the country.
I thought Clifford played pretty decent early in the season. I thought he played better than I was expecting him to. But you're right. I think he has plateaued.
They honestly could have easily lost that Purdue game, the first game of the year.
True. Okay. Okay. That's the Big Ten wrap from last week. We're going to move on to the SEC. Mississippi State, Kentucky. At Kentucky. Mississippi State was given 6.5 points at Kentucky. Kentucky won.
They did.
Kentucky won. Your take on that game?
Kentucky's defense is. They don't have like the Josh Pascals of yesteryear, or the Chris Westries, or like the guys that you expect to get drafted incredibly high, Josh Allen, things like that. But they're incredibly solid. They're a very solid defense.
I agree.
Solid if unspectacular. And I underestimated the impact of Chris Rodriguez. He's a good college back. He's not the most dynamic or most explosive back, but he falls forward. He gets positive yardage, and he wears the defense down. And he did that absolutely against Mississippi State. Will Levis, had a typical Will Levis game. He showed flashes of why people considering him, potentially for the number 1 pick at quarterback. But he also, threw a terrible pick 6, and he just sometimes it looks like he's not seeing the field. Sometimes, he is. But Kentucky's a good team. They have good receivers, good running back.
My biggest question is, what happened to the air raid?
Mississippi State, yeah. Will Rogers and Mississippi State, their air raid was shut down.
Indeed. You know what? I didn't expect it to be. I figured Kentucky would cover, but I did not expect Mississippi State to offensively not produce the way they did.
Yeah. And I was a little biased coming off. They came off the beatdown on Arkansas, and I just
let's not say it out loud now.
After the week prior against Arkansas, they looked like world beaters, and then they go to Kentucky.
Okay.
I was not expecting that, but Kentucky showed up.
You mentioned Arkansas. Before we go to the Arkansas BYU game, tell me which which division in the SEC is tougher, the East or the West?
That's a good question. I mean, you could almost never, in the past 10 years, you would almost never say the East.
True. But I'm not asking about the past 10 years. I'm asking about right now.
But right now, I would go with the East.
Absolutely.
And Florida's not that good, which is normally when the East is better than the West. Florida and Georgia are both
Yeah.
rolling. But right now, Tennessee looks like the best team in the country on offense, not on defense, but they look like an incredibly good team.
Time out. Better than Ohio State on offense? You said best team in the country on offense.
Well, Ohio State hasn't really played anybody.
That's
Notre
true.
Dame, like every week, Notre Dame, like after losing to Stanford, like it's hard to,
Understand.
Tennessee's beaten a lot of teams that have winning records currently.
Okay.
So I think
Okay, I
in a vacuum, I take Ohio State, but Tennessee's proven it.
I can accept what you just said, and I interrupt you. Did you remember what you were talking about before I interrupted you? You said Tennessee has the best option. You're saying that the East is the toughest division in the SEC.
Yeah, Alabama looks incredibly shaky. Texas A&M doesn't look like a real player. Arkansas has been up and down. They've had attrition, injuries, and stuff like that.
The two Mississippi schools are good.
Mississippi is really good. Mississippi State, I don't know. Mississippi is really good.
Mississippi State, I think, is still good. I mean, I don't.
Kentucky.
LSU is a lot better than people might think right now.
Yeah.
Do not sleep on LSU. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, Tennessee just desecrated them the week before, but
True.
yeah, I would say the East is better with Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia. I'll take them over Alabama, Mississippi. Who's the third best team in the West?
Arkansas.
Okay, I'll
Well, you know what? I think once you get past the top two, the other group of the teams are very competitive. It would be hard to pick one above the other. Like when you get to, although Mississippi State beat Arkansas's quarterback didn't play in that game. LSU is good. Arkansas is better than their record. They're 4-3. They could easily be beat 5-2. But that's neither here nor there. Let's go to the big game in the SEC last week, JJ. You touched on it a little bit. It was in Knoxville, Tennessee. Who walked into Tennessee last week?
The Crimson Tide of Alabama.
That's right.
And Bryce Young did play.
And Nick Saban was a 7.5-point favorite.
And I said if Bryce Young played, I would take Alabama. And he did play, and he looked perfectly dynamic. He had 455 yards passing. He was not the issue whatsoever with them. It was. Okay. I was listening to another podcast on college football, and they said Tennessee. Guess how many times Tennessee's had to punt? They played 3 ranked teams, and in those games, guess how many times they punted total?
3.
It was 3.
Okay.
It was exactly 3.
All right. I'm good at guessing, but I also have a little. I didn't know that fact, but I just figured it would be something like that. Tennessee and Georgia, eventually. Is Tennessee the best team in the conference?
I think they are.
Okay. Wow. Aside from defense, what defensive aspect of the Tennessee's game would you call a weakness?
They don't throw over the middle of the field for the most part. When the middle of the field is open, Hendon Hooker has a tendency to run towards the middle of the field, and then he's such an effective runner. He normally picks up positive yardage, a first down, and then he'll get down. But the middle of the field on offense.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the Arkansas game last week. Arkansas and BYU. I'm gonna try to get it on a little quicker right now.
Yeah.
Arkansas had lost 3 in a row. It was like a do or die situation. They went in that game. The point spread varied so much on that game. At first, Arkansas was a favorite. Then they were a dog. And they ended up being a favorite. It went to a pick 'em. They ended up a one and a half point favorite. BYU had played admirably the week before against Notre Dame, but we figured out Notre Dame isn't what we thought they were. Both Arkansas and BYU at one point was in the top 10 in the nation. We know that they were overrated at the time, but how good is Arkansas?
I don't think that game against BYU can show you anything. BYU didn't have the athletes to match up with Arkansas.
Okay.
They had one guy on offense who, was running all over. He caught over 140 yards receiving, and he was running all over them. But other than that, they couldn't match up. They had one tackle for loss against Arkansas. They did not have the athletes to match up. So.
Arkansas, after the first 2 points, I don't know if they punted again in that game. BYU could not slow Arkansas down. But let's go to week 8.
Yes, let's go.
SEC or Big Ten? Which one first?
Start with the Big Ten. It seems to be more
The Big
competitive
Ten.
games in the Big Ten.
Let's go East versus West.
Okay.
Penn State's at home against Minnesota. Penn State's a 4.5-point favorite in that game, and they were a larger favorite initially, and I'm sure it's going to change some more. Who you got? Penn State, Minnesota, and tell me why.
Well, this is a very interesting game because Penn State has a 5-star backup behind Sean Clifford that Penn State fans have been clamoring for him to see the field more, and I've been reading online that this might be a game where they're going to utilize him more. That might be some of the reasons the point spread has oscillated so much. I think Penn State has better players. Tanner Morgan, do we know if he's going to play?
I haven't heard, so I don't know.
Well, Tanner Morgan, I don't know if he's going to play.
Minnesota's quarterback.
He's Minnesota's quarterback.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm going to go Penn State.
You're going to give the 4.5?
The 4.5, I'm going to take Penn State to cover.
They are at home. I'm going to go with Minnesota.
Okay. Any particular reason?
Penn State looked really bad that first half against Michigan to me.
Well, they look worse in the second.
They just look bad. Okay, but let's move on to the team that has been winning by an average of probably 200 points per game. Ohio State home against Iowa. They're 29-point favorite. When you love to have 29 points, JJ, going walking on the field before games start, you've got 29-0 lead.
Most of the time, I would not.
Okay.
I would not want to walk onto the field 29 points. I think if they're given 29 points, it's for a reason.
So will Ohio State cover?
Well, Iowa has a bottom 100 offense, and Ohio State has a top 20. Iowa has a bottom 100 offense, and Ohio State does have a top 20 offense.
Okay.
And they both have about similar defenses.
Okay.
So I think C.J. Stroud is going to make his Heisman case against Iowa. I think.
Well, he got to make it against a team better than that. He got Penn State the week after that. He better make it against Penn State. Iowa ain't gonna buy it, if you ask me. But he's gonna run it. But you're saying they're gonna cover the 29 points?
Yeah, I mean, I think C.J. Stroud is going to make a Heisman statement.
Okay, I'm going to agree with you on the 29 points. I think they will cover. But even if they win by 49 points, to me, I wouldn't see that as a Heisman statement. But Purdue,
Iowa has a really good defense.
they did. It's not. Well, okay.
Okay.
Okay, Purdue at Wisconsin. Purdue is 5-2. They've been looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
They
could easily be 6-1.
They're giving 2 points. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving 2 points.
Yeah.
You taking Purdue? You taking you giving the 2 points, or you taking Wisconsin and the 2 points?
Well, Wisconsin can't pass, and Purdue can't stop the pass. So it's like what happens when a movable object meets a very resistible force. I don't know. It's at Wisconsin. It's Camp Randall. Jim Leonard is coaching for his job. He didn't take other positions because he wanted to succeed Paul Chryst in Wisconsin. If they have any semblance of salvaging their season, Wisconsin has to win this game. Purdue's already 5-2. They're 1 win away from bowl eligibility. Like, that's really the standard. That's really all you have to do in Purdue. It's tough. I think Purdue's the better team, but I think I'll just take Wisconsin to cover, if for no other reason than the home crowd.
You know what? Minnesota went into Wisconsin and kind of spanked them. I got Purdue winning big. I just don't think Wisconsin is the Wisconsin they used to be. Let's move on to the SEC.
Okay.
Mississippi at LSU. Mississippi is a 1.5 point dog in that game. I believe I'm correct on that. How do you see that game?
Well, I think Mississippi's the better team.
They're undefeated.
They're undefeated. They have the third best rushing offense in the country. Third best third down conversion rate in the country. LSU has some major issues.
What are their major issues?
They give up sacks like it's candy. Like they take sacks like they're incredibly turnover prone. And they get their offensive line cannot protect Jay Daniels. So having said that, I'm going to take LSU.
You know what? You and I on the same page.
I do think Mississippi's a better team, but Death Valley, it's hard. The home team. It's hard to go against the home team. I think that's the biggest reason Michigan State beat Wisconsin last week. I think the home crowd is enough for me to take LSU. And Mississippi has not really played anybody.
LSU is 5-2. LSU
Just lost to Florida State and Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean
That's it, right?
yeah. I mean they've had some ups and downs, but I think I'm taking LSU strictly because they're a coach, personally.
I think he's the second best coach in the game, but I'm taking LSU because of the crowd.
Okay, JJ, let's go to Alabama.
Yeah.
They home against Mississippi State, given 21 points. Man, 21 points is a lot. But the only team Alabama beat by 21 points may be Arkansas. I don't know. I haven't looked at their schedule that closely, but they had some close games against some teams. You would thought they would have beat Texas A&M by 31 points, and they barely beat them. You giving the 21, or are you taking Mississippi State into 21?
I'm gonna take Alabama. I think Mississippi State put a lot on film against Kentucky, and you can't really do that. You can't give Nick Saban a week to prepare for all of the holes, and I think Alabama's gonna have a statement to prove. I think they lost a game, unlike Tennessee and Georgia. They have something to prove. So I'm gonna take Alabama. What are you taking?
You know what? I'm taking Alabama, but I'm also taking the 21 points.
So you're taking Mississippi,
I'm taking Mississippi
State to cover?
And I am Mississippi State to cover. Alabama will win.
Well, yeah. That's not the question, but like
I'm true.
Yeah.
I'm taking Mississippi State to cover.
Okay,
Jay. Before we get out of here, we're gonna go to a team because I couldn't find another SEC game that was really worth discussing. So I'm going to go out to the ACC.
Okay.
2 undefeated teams.
The first time Death Valley will have a top 20 or top 15.
Clemson at home against Syracuse.
This is the first time Death Valley is going to have 2 undefeated teams 6 weeks into the season. Or 7 weeks into the season.
Well, they're going to be rocking then. And talk about statements. This is Clemson's opportunity to make a statement. They are 13.5-point favorite in that game.
Yeah.
Against undefeated Syracuse and Jim Brown's old school.
Mm-hmm.
What say you about the outcome?
I think Clemson wins by more than 2 touchdowns.
I'm going to be honest. Haven't seen much of either of these teams.
I've seen quite a lot of both. I'm a big Dino Babers guy ever since he was in the MAC. And, I watch Clemson just because them and Michigan keep on jockeying for position.
Okay. Well, I will say Clemson will cover, but I'm taking Syracuse. I think Syracuse is going to score some points in this game.
So you think Clemson's going to win, but you're taking Syracuse?
I'm sorry. I think Clemson is going to win.
Okay.
I said cover. But I think Syracuse is going to cover.
Yeah, I think Clemson's going to cover. I hope Syracuse wins. I'm going to be rooting for Syracuse, but I take Clemson.
Okay. Well, JJ, you and I got 4. We differ on 4 games. We got 2. We the same on 2. We both got Ohio State in 29, and we both got LSU and the 1.5 points.
Well, last week when we disagreed, it worked out in your favor because you went undefeated. Or no, you missed one game.
I did.
Yeah, I went completely defeated. So we'll have to see who wins the week 8.
I didn't believe in the Michigan last week, and Penn State surprised me. I would say Michigan surprised me. I'm gonna say Penn State surprised me. But JJ, we're gonna get out of here and ready for some football. Which game next week are you most looking forward to seeing? Of the game we just went over.
The most interesting game for next week is LSU Mississippi.
All right. Power to the football. WPS, they got a bye. Woo Pig Suey. We out of here.